Okay, we're starting to record. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. Good to have you all at the Security Working Group meeting. So, to get started, I just want to ask all of you to agree to merge the last meeting minutes from June. They're already linked in the agenda, and they've been pushed to GitHub. So if everyone is okay with that, we approved the meetings from last month.
Looks reasonable to me.
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah, look at the PR.
Okay, sounds good. So with that, let me share again the agenda link on the chat in case you don't have it at hand. Basically, I propose to discuss, to get back to discussing the idea of collaborating on a paper on ROS 2 for the Journal of Open Source Software, which is something that we discussed back in April, I believe, in one of the meetings. And just throw it out there, I linked the requirements that they have for submissions. And yeah, I want to hear all your opinions and if this is something that you'd be interested in working together.
Yeah, that I think so there's the paper that Victor, I, Gianluca, and Mikhail have submitted to ROS. That was accepted. We just have a little bit of feedback, but there's plenty of room for extensions. It honestly need a bit more if we were going to make a journal. So we'll have to put all our heads together to add more of a contribution to enact as a journal article. In the paper, it does when their submission on the I think the preprint has already been uploaded to archive. They have some future work points that would be potentially worthwhile in expending, specifically like incorporating Canonical's work in the NodeDL directly into the policy generation pipeline, or I think some of the more ephemeral bits on trying to tackle, like, if you really want to approach security from a more rigorous standpoint, addressing some of the ROS ecosystem's more broader pitfalls, or common design patterns that are sort of anti-patterns in security. I'm particularly like transforms. If you have transforms that have coming with various sources, levels of integrity or confidentiality, the OWL story just gets merged into one monolithic topic, and it'd be kind of hard to work with that if you do had like some kind of security compliance restrictions you had to follow. But yeah, I think JOS would be a great venue, particularly for our subject in like software engineering and open source.
Yeah, so I was looking at the approach that they take to accept papers as JOS, and really we seem to check all the boxes with ROS 2. So some of the authors have to be major contributors to the software you're presenting. They're usually very short papers. I just shared a link to one about ROS control, and it really just presents the project. So it could be something similar. But it does seem like there has to be some connection to research, so something that can be easily applied in research efforts. Which, I mean, there are many efforts on security for robotics in general, so that is something we can highlight that ROS 2 can easily be used in a research setting. So that is something I was noticing in the requirements. But if you think there's another platform that could suit better, I mean, just to present the project and to, I mean, it's one more way to make it more visible, or maybe highlight one of the applications. That's open too.
I think jazz would be good. Another one I've submitted to was RAS, the Robotic Automation Society Journal. But I think they prefer a little more like application based. So something less software and more something like a demo or an algorithm or that you've applied. So if we gathered maybe several use cases, so one thing is maybe particular during ROSCON, we should try and reach out to see how much in the community have tried using SROS. Are they using security DS for any applications? Are there any pitfalls? Sort of a survey, and if we get any ones that any industrial partners that have a history of using it and they can kind of explain their own experience, that might also be really valuable for a more extended journal paper.
So yeah, there's simply two different directions we can take. Just presenting the project like this, like the rough control paper would be very simple, just presentation of the software, versus, yeah, maybe including a demo, some code to offer an example, promote usage, etc. And yeah, I agree, it would be great in Boston to gather more feedback as to people, how many people are using SROS2 and what they're struggling with. But I guess I was thinking of this as a project that we could start working on immediately, before October. Where do you think we can get more value here?
Yeah, if you want to start immediately, the survey route always takes a little bit longer. You know, you're reaching out to people, contacting, waiting to get feedback. Whereas if you're writing about what you have, that's like you can start immediately. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else's feedback on? I mean, I haven't written papers in a long time now, so I'm not that experienced in choosing, I guess, a journal at the moment. I mean, is this something that you will want to work on?
Yeah, I'd be willing. Roger, Adam, do you guys also have any experience in writing academic submissions or technical conferences?
Yeah, I will say I don't have a huge amount of experience there. I have contributed to some papers in the past, and I mean, honestly, I would be happy to try to help out over here. Despite having hung around here, I still feel like I don't have quite the innate domain knowledge that I would like to have, but if there's a way that I can contribute and help move it forward, I'd be happy to do so.
Yeah, on my side, I don't really have that kind of experience. I'm here kind of from the DDS security perspective since I'm on that revision task force with the object management group. So wanting to see how the DDS security specifications are used and what's working and what's not working.
Yeah, I will also say I've got connections to a team over here that is, applying some of the SROS stuff to one of our projects. Government related, so I'm not sure how easy or difficult it would be to take direct contributions out of that, but there might at least be some feedback or things that would be interesting and potentially useful that I could go solicit if we can, focus that.
Adam, I didn't catch your affiliation. So are you work close with the object management group in the DDS?
Yeah, I
spec?
work for a company called Object Computing, and so we're the maintainers behind OpenDDS, open source DDS implementation, which includes DDS security, and we're a member organization of the Object Management Group.
Has there been it's been a while since I checked the RMW client layers. Has there been an RMW implementation yet for Open DDS?
There's some work in progress on it, but not. I don't think anything that anyone's using. I'd be happy to help revive efforts there.
I'm just like one thing we've always wrestled with especially with Mikhail is the getting the devil in the details with the specific format of the security credentials and enabling such the features through the RMW layer. And then you try and test it like, well, it works between vendor A and vendor A, and you try and vendor B and vendor B, and then vendor A and vendor B work, and then vendor B and vendor A doesn't work. And so it's always nice to have more than just two.
Yeah, that's another reason why
security
I'm
vendors,
in these
because
things.
then you
Yes.
can kind of diagnose like, okay, who is non-compliant here?
Right. So another hat that I wear is I'm involved in the OMG's DDS Foundation. So we're interested in getting those kinds of experiences of what's happening out in the world with the DDS implementations and helping out where we can.
I know there was there's a GitHub repo somewhere that's sort of been maybe it's under the object management group, but it's a collection of all the talker listener demos, or whatever, but with all the various vendors. So it has like the make files that you can kind of make the demo application for every vendor, and then using the security credentials and kind of double check on whether it's sort of like a unit test with all the vendors, either intercompatible. But it hasn't been updated. Last I checked was last year. It seemed kind of dormant. Is that
Yeah, I'll
still
put a link in the chat. I think that it's probably something, as I was saying, like it's good to collect feedback on it. Like if you'd like to see something tested there that's not, you can certainly put a message in that, I don't know if issues are enabled in that GitHub repository, but there should be some way. Yeah, it looks like they are. If not, you could always, reach out by email too, and we can get things updated in there.
Oh, good. Thank you. So sorry, that was a little aside. Did we want to have any action items for working towards journal submission? Like I said, I think JAWS is fine. Though I'll have to look at the fine print of what you were looking at, Veronica.
Now, I didn't have action items just yet. Basically, just taking this back up and see if we'll be interested in doing this. I think journal of open source software is kind of a low-hanging fruit in that it will be a presentation of a software project that's already been done. There's not much more work than that involved, I think, and it is good to promote, I think. Yeah, it's ROS 2, basically. And yeah, they tend to be kind of shorter articles.
So the goal it may be to make a point how it's sitting as ROS 2 at the moment, something like that. That's your idea, Florencia?
I'm sorry, say that again?
To say and give a statement of the position where ROS 2 is at the moment, something like that. Because I was just reviewing the paper you shared in the chat, and for the what's called the ROS control, they were just doing this kind of summary and presentation of the packages and the functionality. You want to do something similar to ROS 2? That's the goal.
I think so. I have to look at more papers too, but that seems to be the case, just presenting the project. And yeah, it makes sense to go into the code, packages, features. Again, it doesn't involve creating any new code because it's just a presentation of the project.
No, I think that could be interesting also because we can find the gap, identify in which direction we should go. That was the original goal of the paper we submitted at ROS, and I would love to continue the discussion also at ROSCON with other guys, as Rafin was suggesting. I think it could be an interesting thing to do and a good starting point for other evolutions that that ROS 2 actually is in need of. I don't know if you agree, guys, or maybe I'm out of the I'm missing the point. I don't know.
I just looked at the example paper ROS control, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's much shorter than I was thinking. Our current paper is longer than that. It's just a conference paper. So maybe do they have different tracks of the journal? Like what, based on, are you just making an entry in the journal for a particular project versus documenting a larger body of work that has been put into the project? I don't know how to say it. Yeah. So yeah, the smaller entry looks like just a few pages. Okay. I guess I'll just have to read some of the various options that JAWS has for submission.
Yeah, basically the research component is mentioned in the requirement, but I guess, as I said, I'm not too sure, but I think this is the kind of software that could easily be applied in research for robotic security of robots using ROS. So the basic requirement that I just pasted on the chat is if you've already developed a fully featured research code and released it on the OSI approved license, documentation and tests, then it should be pretty much approved.
Okay, yeah. If we just want to follow ROS controls example, then yeah, the bar is much more moderate. Um, so yeah, I'd start with starting a repo on the community working group, getting the LaTeX template out, and we can just start submitting pull requests on adding particular content. I think we can pull a lot of the citations we've already kind of focused on from our existing SROPS paper and condense more of an introduction or summary, executive summary on SROS key contributions. Is that something you'd be able to do, to open up a repo, start the LaTeX taper?
Yeah, absolutely. I can do that.
Okay.
Again, it's the first time I'm guess collaborating on a paper on a GitHub repo. But
Yeah, that works.
you guys, I think you guys, some of you have more experience in this aspect. But
I mean, honestly, it looks like that's what they want for the submission anyway, so I think it would make sense to just go ahead and work it there. It was interesting noticing in their one point that they also commented that it's okay to have the repo, when you submit it, be on a branch that never gets merged to master. So, I mean, theoretically, you could even just put that in a branch on the existing repo rather than spinning a new one up.
I don't know if I co-locate the paper with,
Actually,
with source code.
I'm looking at the submission requirements. One of the bullets says your paper must be hosted in a Git-based repository together with your software, although they may be in a short-lived branch which is never merged with the default. And I mean, you know, theoretically that could be pushed over there when it's ready to go so that it doesn't pollute it too much. But and you could also argue that, you know, if the repo for the paper is in the same project as the repo for the software, then that is together with. But they do seem to want it close.
I guess that's if that's what they want, then we can follow that. Are these submissions lively? Do they evolve? Do they have a sort of a life cycle? People like periodically update that, like if it was an archive draft, or is this like a one-time submission and then it's dated and then I'm just curious.
so basically, here's a submission form. Doesn't say anything about life cycle, like specific submission dates.
Yeah, it's an open journal, so it doesn't have like a periodic review cycle. But I was wondering if the submissions are treated as live documents. But I'm guessing they're probably just archived. And if you want to make a new revision, you just make a new submission. If you update or anything.
Okay, so I can go ahead and start a repo for it that you can now contribute to. But we can also, I don't know, have you worked on Google Sheets for drafts and stuff? To collaborate on a draft?
Yeah, we can work on a more ephemeral document for comments that sometimes the revision control is a little bit heavy for literature review.
Okay, sounds good. And I liked all the other ideas as well of gathering feedback from anyone who's using SROS2 or has tried to use it or will want to use it. That can feed any other ideas and other projects, I think.
Sounds good. Any other agenda items?
I didn't have anything else. I don't know. You're also free to propose anything right now if there's something you want to discuss.
Just a general notice. Me and Gianluca are looking into methodologies for information flow control. So, in SROS right now, we have, and with security DS, we pretty much have a means of enforcing access control. But from a confidentiality integrity standpoint, when you want to get a little more advanced and using the access control to preserve or isolate and segment subsystems in your larger application, that can get a little bit difficult to manually audit or track down the implicit flows of information between that goes across your information, your computation graph. So we've been looking into sort of formal methods for information flow control, and we'll report back if that bears any fruit. But we're about knee deep in lambda calculus and fighting our way out through the weeds. So that's just something that personal report. If any other people have certain subject areas in ROS and security, you guys are also looking in, feel free to do a report. That's something that the navigation group does, is like towards the end of every meeting, everyone just kind of comments on what they've been doing or what's their interest for the month or whatever. Anyone else want to give a small little report? Don't make me pick one. Okay, Roger, you have anything you want to talk about?
Nothing that I am well versed enough to speak up on. I know that we've got guys who are working on figuring out how to improve security and apply some of the SROS stuff to some vehicle applications, but I'm just not deep enough in the weeds to actually be able to talk intelligently about it.
Adam?
I guess in a way I spoke on a little bit before, so maybe out of order of what you planned for the agenda. But yeah, that's what I'm interested in, the applications of DDS security, both as a spec and as software.
Related to a previous discussion we've had with the working group is particularly with the size of the computation graphs that we're dealing with in ROS. I think from a DDS perspective, we're sort of been seen as abnormal and like how large our pub sub networks are. Another thing is in how ROS topics they manifest to DDS topics, or like an action maps to 2 services and 2 topics, and each service also maps to 2 DDS topics. So you can see the combinatorics kind of explode. One thing when we encountered last year with SROS was if you try to even like do the minimal navigation demo, you end up where the XML payload exceeds the size of a UDP packet. The XML sign token will exceed the size of a UDP packet, and so you can't necessarily transmit it over during the initial handshake for the discovery protocol. And that was a bit of a larger limit that I think is more with respect to necessarily the DDS spec than ROS. And we've had to try a couple workarounds. So either by stripping the white spaces from the tokens before we apply the signature, or allowing more use of liberal wildcards in terms of permissions. So rather than being the minimal spanning, we kind of just use the POSIX expressions for prefix matching of namespaces in ROS rather than exact topic names. Were you made aware of that prior, or I can also reference you to I think some earlier discussions on GitHub.
Yeah, if you have a link to those, that would be good. I'm aware in the more general sense of the issue with the very large XML permissions, becoming a problem. And that is definitely something that the object management group is looking at for future specifications. I don't know if there's anything concrete for it yet.
Yeah, I think when I was talking with Gerardo from RTI, we kind of came, and Aprosima, we came up kind of 2 potential ways. We could either again strip the white spaces, or use compression algorithm. It's just a long string, so there's plenty of repeats. So you could sign the compressed binary and then send that over the wire. Though I think that was a bit of a workaround, and it's no longer as transparent. The one I kind of recommend is if there's some way we can rearrange the protocol where the permission tokens are exchanged after a secure channel is established, rather than broadcasting them, in that from a confidentiality standpoint, the broadcasting of one's own permissions can itself leak what your capabilities are within the network. So we have an earlier paper that I can post again on using this exact traffic to analyze secure DDS networks for if you're an attacker and you're trying to prioritize which elements on the network you want to attack. Even if everything's encrypted, you can use the permission tokens that are transmitted in clear text to piece together the topology of the network. You're on the SROS2 matrix chat, and I can put the link to that paper and maybe a link to the previous matrix discussion on the token size.
I don't think I have that chat yet, but I will look it up.
I think it might have been in the invite for this meeting. If you look on your calendar, it has like a little description. Yep. It's also on the on the ROS2 index page. There's a community or maintainers page, and it has all the list of all the other working groups, and that's where the hyperlinks for how each working group kind of communicates or what form they use. So we have our matrix chat hyperlink there as well.
Okay, and anyone else want to share something you're working on? Anything exciting you've seen, been thinking about? Oh, okay. So, okay, I don't have anything else. We can keep talking on the matrix chat. If you could just send your email addresses, I guess, to share the repo with you. Or I could just make it public and share it on the link on the chat, I guess.
One question, if we have a moment, since I'm new to the use of the matrix link. So I looked that up. I believe I found the right link. And it's giving me an error that you're trying to access a community link. Communities are no longer supported. They've been replaced by spaces.
Okay, yeah, I guess I have to update that. There's someone else. I'm not on my same computer. Does someone else want to share the exact room link? So previously, I had thought communities were going to be longer lived, so I had made. Oh, thank you. So that's a Matrix IO. So Matrix IO is the sort of the chat backend, and then various people can provide front ends like the front end client. The biggest one used to be called Riot, Riot.io, and then they recently renamed themselves. What was the renaming? Element, yes. So they renamed themselves to Element, and sort of all the means of orchestrating multiple rooms kind of got deprecated from, I guess, communities to whatever new, and I have to update all those links. Okay, thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, it looks
You
like the
have the-
link that was just posted by Roger is working.
All right, great. So go ahead and introduce yourself in the matrix room, so I know your ID, and I'll drop also the link to the DDS security paper in the DDS discussion on tokens.
Okay, yeah, I'm just getting it set up with the plugin.
Okay, so we're almost at the end of the time. Yeah, please join the matrix chat, Adam, and like there's, I guess, the space where we can continue any conversations, like everybody who attends a group, at least sometimes is in the chat. Okay, so if that's it, I will see you all. Actually, usually in August, the meeting is canceled because it's a summer break, or at least that's what I've heard from past years. It's because a lot of people are on vacation, and it's, yeah, we might take the summer break next month from the meetings. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's usually pretty quiet during the summer.
I will just make note that I think I probably tend to miss about half of the meetings that are at this time. It's interesting because I've got client meetings where alternating weeks, it starts at either 11 o'clock local time or 12 o'clock local time. And on the ones where the alternating weeks line up with the first and third or whatever it is we're doing with this, I end up having to do that one instead. So it's just kind of an unfortunate interplay between, you know, every other week versus second and fourth. Not asking for a change, just kind of a, if I'm missing, that's why.
Yeah, this meeting will be the second Tuesday of each month, alternating between 1 p.m. UTC and 4 p.m. UTC, whatever that time is in your local time.
Right.
This meeting is I guess the 4 p.m. UTC.
And that's right. We're not doing two a month now. We're down to one a month, aren't we?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So yeah, if I miss this time slot periodically, that's what's going on.
Yeah, sorry to hear that. But yeah, we can also communicate on the matrix chats very easily. I mean, more dynamically. Okay, in that case, I will see you all. We'll see you at these meetings again in September, and we'll keep talking until then.
All right. Thank you, Florencia. Thank you, everyone, and have a good vacation then.
Ciao.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for the discussion.
Bye-bye.
Okay, see you soon.